This is Jason Verney's podcast. I am Jason Verney. Firstly, I hope you are well wherever you are or whenever you are, depending when it is that you listen to this. This particular show, I wanted to talk about the recent Creative Visions weekend, or you could call it a little festival in itself. It was celebrating Hong Kong cinema. But as well as that, I want to talk about Korean cinema and the little connections between Hong Kong and Korea, at least from my point of view. First of all, this particular festival, or this particular weekend, began on the 17th of November until the 19th of November. But it's actually quite kind of ironic for me, the 17th, because I was visiting basically a Korean artist friend of mine called Kyung Hwa Shong. She had a sort of collaborative exhibition, a visual exhibition, a video and stuff, with a Hong Kong artist, Hui Tung Lau, at the RCA Dyson Gallery. I hadn't seen the Kyung Hwa Shong's exhibition or her work for a long time, but I was desperately wanting to catch this one. And I guess that's where the Korean and Hong Kong connection began on the weekend of the 17th to 19th of November. The one thing I will mention and kind of state before I go into further details of this is the Creative Visions film weekend, basically celebrating Hong Kong, is essentially celebrating Hong Kong cinema between 1997 and 2017. That doesn't mean that all films were made or released then, but it's essentially celebrating or marking the 20 years since the what most people or some people call the handover, and this particular this collection of films was it's in association with the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the HKSAR. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that's the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. So in other words, it's Hong Kong as it's been known for the last 20 years, since it had the British or UK, the British stronghold or British colonisation. So it's a big thing for Hong Kong. But yeah, so I'm sorry if I'm backwards and forwarding through time here, but the weekend for me began on the Friday the 17th. However, although I went to this completely unrelated Korean artist and Hong Kong artist exhibition, I didn't actually go to the first screening of these Hong Kong films. And the reason for that essentially was I did actually go to see another film. I actually went to see an English-speaking film, a Hollywood film, you could say, instead of this one. Something I'm kind of semi-regretting, because it was a film called Marjorie Prime, which I've since seen again to see if I can enjoy it as much as I thought I would, but I didn't. So it's kind of, I could have gone to the premiere screening for this Creative Visions weekender had I not gone to that. But I was also not... Sometimes you have to be in the mood for certain films and certain events. But it's a shame I missed that. But I did go to the majority of the rest of the festival. Let me just sort of give a bit of information about this Creative Visions weekender, or this celebration of 20 years. I'll read from the sort of release here, or from the pamphlets and the websites and what have you. It says Hong Kong Cinema 1997 to 2017 celebrates the 20th anniversary of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, there it is again, by screening Hong Kong films from the past 20 years. London is one of 10 international locations selected to host the programme. Over one weekend, from 17th to 19th November 2017, the 8-film programme will open with the Wilson Yip Wei Shuns Paradox. That's the film I didn't get to see. The latest instalment of SPL crime thriller series, and close with the film The Brink. The action-packed debut by Jonathan Lee, who's also assistant director on the Infernal Affairs trilogy. It then goes on to say award-winning Hong Kong star Gordon Lam, I think his name's actually, some people be referring to him as Gordon Lam, but it's Gordon Lam Ka Tung, will attend the special weekend to give audiences an unforgettable viewing experience. And indeed, from what I hear, he gave a sort of a masterclass. He's also he's actor. There's 4 films that he was involved with: Paradox, Gallants, Trevisa, and The Brink, either as actor or producer or both. So that's the first film was Paradox, which I didn't go to see, and I will mention now the 2 places that these, apart from the masterclass, which was elsewhere, the two venues for majority of the films were actually hotels, as quite a few sort of well-known London hotels, you could say swanky hotels, they have cinema screening rooms there. They're normally very, very well kept, very plush, very nice and comfortable screening rooms. And of course they have private views. This is a kind of a private viewing, but the two hotels were the Soho Hotel and the Ham Yard Hotel, so both based in Soho. But the opening night, the one I didn't go to, was the Ham Yard Hotel, and it seemed from the photos there was a reception with guests, and it seemed really good. So yeah, it's a shame I didn't go to that, but such is life. So the rest of apart from the masterclass, the rest of the films all took place in the Soho Hotel, which is for the rest of the films. Actually, it said 8 films, but there's actually 9 in total, I think. So onto the weekend of films itself. I will also mention something I was going to mention before. These are all free screenings. These are all free. And the reason I didn't actually do a podcast or an article or what have you relating to this beforehand was because it was a month or 2 before this weekend the event was announced. It was on Facebook and the usual kind of social media places. They really got the word out there. And the spaces, because it was free, people booked up spaces straight away, so they kind of sold out, even though they weren't sold, they were free, but they were kind of fully booked within no time at all. So much so that people who had originally put down 2 seats for particular screenings, or most of the screenings, or some of them, they were then told to put them down to 1, or they were forced down to 1. So I think it was a very successful marketing initiative by Creative Visions. They seemed to know what they were doing. One place I think I saw it first mentioned was on the Facebook page, the London Asian Film and Events, I think it's called, and that's a very good page by a friend of mine, actually, who just coincidentally, it's a good page, not to be confused with our own. That's my and my co-founder's page of London Asian Film Society, where we post news and what have you, which is essentially made up of my website minimovie.com and other people that I'll mention another time, and I have mentioned in other podcasts. So, what with that first night out the way, Paradox was the film that I didn't see, which was a European premiere. It was also, I wasn't sure if it was going to be my kind of genre. It was actually, I think it might have been, again, it was kind of relating to Thailand, but also Hong Kong. So I should probably have seen it. So anyway, we were then into Saturday, and the day started with Ordinary Heroes. Now, I saw this film, I was there, and I thought it was really good. I mean, it's a 1999 film, but it was very political. Some of these films were political for a reason, because of this 20 years significance. Excuse me. And I thought it was very good. Yes, it wasn't easy to watch for some people, I'm sure. It was 128 minutes. The director was An Hui. But I think it was nice. I like these kind of not just the political films, but it was quite real. It felt very real. So that was that film. Then we had PTU. This was the late afternoon, early evening on the Saturday, the 18th. And this was by Johnny To. Now, any Asian film or Hong Kong or Chinese film fanatics will know Johnny To. I'm always raving about the film Sparrow, which is a brilliant film, and it has a remarkable soundtrack. In fact, if you go to Terracotta Distribution, you can find them online and Twitter and the website in particular. You'll see that they have, or they should still have, the 3-disc version of that film. The third disc is actually the soundtrack to Sparrows. Sparrow. But PTU is it stands for Police Tactical Unit. I think this could have been, and this film was made in 2003, but the screening itself, it was very, 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 very clean. I mean, it felt like it was a 4K restoration, so maybe it was. I've never seen it before, and as much as I rave about Johnny To, I've probably only seen a couple of his films. So I'm glad I saw that. I mean, the colours in that film were amazing, the music, the atmosphere. Yeah, I was such a late starter with that one. I think I might even own it on DVD somewhere, still unwrapped. But I'm glad I saw it on the big screen. It is well worth seeing if you get a chance to again, or if it comes around again. And the final film on the Saturday, I apologise, sorry, there's 4 films on Saturday, that's 2 of them. The third film was Mad World. Now, this was a UK premiere and probably my favourite film of the weekend, actually. It's difficult to pick one, but I think Mad World was, brilliant. I mean, it was a new film, 2016, of course it's a UK premiere, so you kind of expect that. That said, some films, even old films, have never been shown on the big screen in the UK, so that there is exceptions to that rule. I love that film. There's a guy in it. He's bipolar. He's kind of struggling to re-enter society and to reconcile with his estranged father. And it's really touching, but it's funny as well. It's just a lovely film. If you get a chance to see Mad World, I'm sorry I can't pronounce the Chinese title. I would recommend it if it comes around again. The fourth film on the Saturday, I didn't actually see because I've seen it before. Kind of a shame again because I kind of maxed myself out by doing 3 films in one place, and I thought, I don't need to see. I've seen it before, and I actually saw it. I've mentioned Terracotta earlier, and Terracotta were running, and they might bring back at some point. They might not. The Terracotta Far East Film Festival. A few years ago, they had this film, Gallants. It's a very funny. If I remember right, it's pretty amusing. It's kind of action, kung fu master, comedy, and also a bit of action. So it's a very, I guess you could say, silly action. But the director, does a brilliant job of that film. So I remember that. If you go to my website again, minimovie.com, you can actually find a review of Gallants. It's Gallants. Again, I didn't attend that. The producer was there, Gordon Lam Katang, but I chose not to. Now, Sunday, we're still in the same cinema, the Soho Hotel. This is where I went along. I met a friend or two as well, completely by chance, although I expected one of them to be there. One of them's actually basically a co-member of the London Asian Film Society, which I mentioned before. But I had plans on this Sunday which involved Korean cinema. Now, after missing the Friday opening night of these screenings and loving all the films I'd seen, the Hong Kong ones, until up to the Sunday morning, at the end of Saturday, I was thinking, why was I going to this Korean movie related screening, in fact a trilogy, which I'll come on to in a minute, when I could remain in these Hong Kong films and Cantonese films and what have you, and I, it's just one of those things. I didn't need to, and in fact the chance probably would have come around again for the Korean trilogy, but hey, it's just one of those things, and I'm sure I'd hopefully catch these other two films. Again, not all the films that are being shown were necessarily my genre or cup of tea, or at least I wouldn't have thought they were. But that means I chose to miss on the Sunday the film Trevisa, which I believe was quite popular. Again, it had the Gordon Lam Katang in attendance, and the film The Brink, also with him in attendance. But the two films I did see was Made in Hong Kong. I like that film, pretty good. That was a 4K restoration. That was made in 1997, and then I watched half of this film, Echoes of the Rainbow, a beautifully shot film from 2010. It was so beautifully shot, so colourful. It almost looked too sort of fake in its cinematography. It was kind of, apparently an autobiography. I remember them saying actually, or it's an autobiographical tale about a boy growing up in Hong Kong. So, as I mentioned earlier, these films are meant to be celebrating the 20 years of Hong Kong cinema. But I think actually there's one film. Which one was it? It was actually before that. Why can't I see it now? Okay, maybe I'm wrong there. So yeah, anyway, so the Made in Hong Kong was, I saw that in full, and then I saw Echoes of the Rainbow, sort of half of that, 2/3. The reason I chose to disappear was to see the Vengeance trilogy by Park Chan-wook, which was at the Prince Charles Cinema that Sunday. Now, I've seen Old Boy. I wasn't sure if I'd seen the Lady Vengeance or the other one. Basically, it turned out I think I had seen one of them, but I was really thinking to myself that the Prince Charles always do trilogies and marathons and all this kind of thing. It would have come around again, but I think I felt that I was betraying my knowledge of Korean cinema if I hadn't seen all three of the Park Chan-wook Vengeance films, at least in one sitting as well. So I've now done that, ticked it off my, it's not really on my bucket list, but it's ticked it off my list. But I would have happily, and in fact I almost changed my mind, I would have happily stayed for the whole of the Creative Visions weekend. It was just I'm really hoping that they do something. I think they said to us that they were going to they do plan to do other events. Now I don't know how quite they're going to do that, because this is celebrating 20 years of the handover, and it's that, of course they can start doing monthly events and or meetups, that kind of thing, but it was, I think they just did a brilliant job. It must have taken some doing as well. Obviously got to hire the venues, but the audience, it was almost full much of the time, and it was pretty full at other times. So obviously people bailed out, it being a free thing. People, unfortunately, and I'm guilty of this in the past, I'm sure, well I know I am, people obviously bailed out at certain times or on the day, definitely. So this creative visions was a pretty good thing. I mean, so my that weekend for me was Hong Kong related and Korean, but almost bookended by Korean film, you could say, because even the Korean Hong Kong art that I went to see on the Friday, and then which I didn't want to rush over to see the premiere for this mini festival. Even that was as that was Korean / Hong Kong artists, and it was video related, so it wasn't a mini film, and it was finished with the 3 Park Chan-wook films, the Vengeance trilogy. Also, one thing I will note is that whenever I think of Hong Kong, I also think of the Yellow Ribbon. They've had political things a couple of years ago, which again there was the Yellow Ribbon was the symbol of that, and it is also the symbol of the Sewol Ferry, which I've mentioned before in other podcasts and in articles on my website. So sometimes when I meet someone from Hong Kong or from China, even they will see the ribbon on maybe it's on my clothing or on my phone, and they'll sometimes quiz me and ask if that's to do with Hong Kong, but actually to do with Korea. I just thought I'd throw that in there because that's kind of a link between the two nations. Hong Kong's Hong Kong's is its own little its own country, nation. I mean, China's the nation. I'm not going to go into that. I actually had a long conversation, went to a free consultation yesterday, and I had something that was meant to be 15 minutes turned out to be almost an hour. I had this brilliant conversation with someone from Hong Kong, and similar subjects came up, and I'm as much as I have only been, as much as I've only fleetingly passed through Hong Kong, 3 days actually I was there, or 2.5 days on the way to the Philippines a few years ago. I am getting more interested in their history, and whether that's also cinematic history, and this was kind of, it reintroduced me to that, because the way I got into Korea and the way I got into Korean films was just because I was watching Japanese films, Hong Kong films, Chinese films mixed together, and a lot of people do come to Korean cinema from Hong Kong cinema or from Chinese cinema or Japanese, but very often it's from the Hong Kong or the martial arts or something to Korean. It's rare. I suppose it's rarely the other way around, but it does happen. So without me continuing to ramble, I really wanted to basically commend the people involved with this. It was a brilliant weekend, and I would have stayed for longer and sat through all 9 films. Well, actually the Gallants I'd already seen, but I probably could have recapped with it. But if you go to my website, as I say, minimovie.com, I'm sure actually this podcast will probably be put on there eventually as well. But yeah. Oh, and one last thing, it was quite ironic because I was speaking about rushing off to see the Park Chan-wook films, the Korean films, on the Sunday, and one of these guys who was involved with this weekend, putting this on and comparing it or whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, he was actually the guy who introduced the director's cut of The Handmaiden a few months ago when they did a special screening in the Curzon Soho. And so it was kind of weird connection. We were talking about me rushing off to see his films, and he mentioned that, and I thought, oh yeah, I was there for that. And it's a small world. Britain, Hong Kong, Korea, it's a small world. So I will leave you with that. I'm hoping you found that interesting. I've not I've not sort of broken apart these films too much that I've seen, which were essentially Ordinary Heroes, PTU, Mad World, Made in Hong Kong, and Echoes of the Rainbow. But I wanted to give you a bit of a feel for what the Weekender was. Okay, so I will leave you with that. Whenever you are, wherever you are, I wish you all the best. Until next time, see ya.